Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Let me recognize our former minister, Reverend Ronald Thwaites, Mr. Richard Villa, President of Bay Ridge Consortium, Permanent Secretary, Mr. Maurice Smith, our CEO, Dr. Grace McLean, all other officers, high-ranking officials of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Professor Ying, all other distinguished members of the education fraternity, my colleague principals, I guess one's a principal and teacher, all is a principal and teacher. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, all, I greet you well. I note my predecessor and he and I, interestingly, are in a bout of musical chairs, and he knows why. Because I did coach him prior to him becoming Minister of Education. You didn't know that. But I want to tell him, though, that senators are not politicians in the real sense. And so I believe I will be upstairs. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, colleagues, I've been thrust in this new position, but interestingly, I got a foretaste of the alternative pathways to secondary education. And in Jamaican parlance, it could be a case of cock-mouth kill cock, because in my own journey and understanding of the education system, I would have advocated for such an initiative. But first, let me thank all of you for being here today on the occasion of the launch of this very important new initiative by my ministry in meeting the challenges of the secondary education in Jamaica. And again, I want to pay homage to my predecessor, because I did say to him in my coaching and transition when he took over that we were not going to play politics with education. And we will have, and since though JC didn't quite make it this year to the top, but we are accustomed to running a relay. So he gets the baton, pass the baton, and somebody else, no doubt, I don't know if he's going to come back after my 15 years. But our education system has had its fair share of challenges. And we have for years grappled with less than desirable levels of achievement, particularly at the secondary level. However, we have begun to turn the corner with improved outcomes at all levels. Our program of education transformation is indeed bearing fruit. And you educators, and all of you, need to give yourself a hand, man. You know, clap yourself. We're making progress. But we're not where we want to be. And some of the issues that confront us result from the fact that as a country, we have not been making sufficient provisions for the varied needs of our children. In addition, we have not ensured that students benefit from secondary education and that we put to an end to the practice of graduating students who are not equipped to transition into post-secondary education or the workforce. And that student, and all our students, in fact, are given the chance to learn based on an evaluation of their proficiency, ability, and proclivity towards one another, or their form of learning, and that our teachers are adequately prepared to deal with students of varying learning needs. And I would tell you that on taking up the post of principal at JC, it was one of the issues I had to confront with, because the profile, and I struggled over the couple of years with the old boys for them to appreciate that although it had been categorized for many years as a traditional high school, the profile of students that I had received, and based on some of the issues that were happening there, because not only were we not getting the top of the ladder anymore when I took over in 2006, but a lot of those at the top end were leaving. So what JC was left with was pretty much the lower levels, which would have seen evidence of pathway 1, 2, and 3 as identified. So I've had real practical experience of this particular issue, and I've sought initiatives over the years to address that. So as I'm saying that, my presiding over this initiative, it's something myself that in my own practice I've had to confront with. In recent years, we have been making the necessary improvements, and thankfully, we are beginning to see positive results. We now have in place a better monitoring mechanism at the early childhood level, informed by structured curricula. There's greater emphasis on targeted interventions at all levels of the system. At the primary level, a proficiency pathway is in place to identify and treat with the varied learning needs of our students. We have been providing tremendous support in the areas of numeracy and literacy. Additional opportunities are being provided for capacity building in the area of special education, while at the same time increasing the number of special education teachers and coordinators. There's greater emphasis on the integration of TVET within the system. With all of this investment, we have begun to see incremental improvements in outcomes at both the primary and secondary levels. However, we remain concerned that a significant number of students at the secondary level are not being sufficiently engaged to the extent that they graduate without any meaningful chance of advancement. Furthermore, approximately 3,000 of our students each year leave the primary system below the level to be able to access secondary level education and have to be placed in their STEP program. We simply cannot allow this trend to continue, as it is from this segment of the population that we are most likely to produce the unattached youths who, in the absence of meaningful intervention, become a liability to our society. I'm therefore focused on integrating with you the role of the parents in our education system. That parenting and socialization of our children directly impact our learning outcomes, and therefore we need to have parents and children who understand the need to be punctual, to be disciplined, to study, and have the right approach towards the preparation for examinations. These are the little things that can have a major impact on learning and performance. So my dear colleagues in education, we have identified another problem that we have called you here to share the details of the response and present a solution which will change the approach to our secondary education. The new alternative pathway will reposition secondary education as inclusive, customized, diverse, relevant, equitable, and outcomes-based. It will in fact be a reframing and a repositioning of secondary education in Jamaica. This new approach will allow us to institute programs to ensure that every student is given the best opportunity to learn and to succeed. It will be based on a framework of the response to intervention RTI system, which is designed to unearth the talents and strengths of students and channel these in a direction where the students can maximize their potential. The alternative pathway to secondary education will be guided by a philosophy which is interactive and learner-centered and ensure that every student gets his or her opportunity to achieve in the selected areas of learning based on their aptitude, interest, and ability at the secondary level. We, therefore, at the Ministry of Education, Youth, and Information, are indeed convinced that all our children can learn. And if some are not learning, then the problem must lie in the method used to deliver education. For each student needs to be identified and treated with. This is where customized learning comes in. This is not acceptable because our aim is that all children must learn. Every adult knows someone who has supposedly not been capable of learning, who went on to become brilliant, as we have seen in the videos, as they pursue their career. Clearly, the deficiency was not theirs. The new approach is based on inclusion rather than exclusion. Firstly, it is grounded in core values which insist that education is best delivered as an active pursuit, doing rather than simply passively hearing. It has always fascinated me to see people with multiple degrees having to yield to a person who has been doing the job for years and knows it hands-on, practically. Hearing about it or reading about it is never as effective as being able to do it, whatever it may be. You ever see some people playing instruments? Nobody can teach them, but better than them you can't find. Secondly, it teaches us respect for diversity in curriculum, teaching, and learning methods, and the use of teaching tools, because it's like I'm preaching to myself over and over again. We are not all the same. Even if we are male or female, we have different strengths, weaknesses, and learning styles. Yes. It is, in fact, emphasizing curriculum adaptation and modernization and welcomes change. In this day of Instagram and cloud storage, we must ensure that students receive effective tools to deal with the new digital global realities. For instance, many mechanics have been left behind as more and more the work of mechanics have become the work of computer scientists. We must guard against this by being proactive in our curriculum and embracing the new frontiers of learning. Thirdly, it is also self-examining, demanding inquiry into our practices and respect for all our learners. What does not work and is seen not to work must be discarded for more effective approaches, and this must be done with alacrity. The new approach will see all students at the secondary level under the compulsory education policy being placed on a path to complete at least 7 years at the secondary level up to age 18. And so I want to emphasize that as we construct these alternative pathways, as I've said to the team of the ministry, I'm still not convinced that we could achieve the desired levels by grade 11. And therefore, I've asked them to construct this so that we have all our students engaged. And I will explain how we're going to expand the modalities to capture all our students at the end of grade 11 so that they can be engaged up to age 18. In fact, I've always said age 18 is a magic number because developmentally, a lot of the slower ones tend to mature rapidly between age 17 and 18. The pathway will therefore allow for students to identify their careers at an early stage and progress through the system, selecting the track that will get them there. At grades 12 and 13, therefore, the students will have the opportunity through, now we're bringing back the career advancement program, to move into the traditional sixth form program or a technical sixth form program. We will also include opportunities under the National Apprenticeship Program. In addition, those students on the secondary pathway 3 will also have an opportunity to pursue a career to meet their specified needs. It will also become mandatory for all students to participate in the National Corps Service Program, which will be a program where students will learn the spirit of volunteerism, former ministers, and basic employability skills to allow for them to transition into responsible adulthood. All students, therefore, will have an opportunity to sit exit certification, include CAPES or CSEC, CVQ, NVQ, and City and Guilds. Those students on pathway 2 or 3 at the end of grade 30 will also have an opportunity to pursue the new occupational supervisory certification being developed that will allow them to have the workplace competencies and skills or be ready for higher level certification. So again, we're going to carve out different modalities and blends because I've said even to those on CAP, or if you even go to a hard institution, provision could also be made for you to do, if you didn't succeed at CSEC or CAPE, you can add 1 or 2 subjects there. So we want to broaden the approach. And of course, we will shortly be announcing the National Qualification Framework so that we are all clear that you can move between the different streams and everybody can be acknowledged as your worth and your competence. So that will be also worked out. Let me point out that this approach that we are launching today has been used around the world effectively and successfully for many years and in many countries, including Singapore. The new approach is set inside a conceptual framework which acknowledges changing paradigms in education. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters all, we're trying to create a seamless system that will see all our people transitioning into meaningful pursuits that will keep them engaged and gradually move them out of poverty into prosperity. Let me state clearly, and Minister Twain knows that I'm not campaigning again, right? Because I said I am not going down, I am going up. Oh yes, up, up, up. So let me state clearly that it is not about the teachers are suggesting that the teachers have failed. Far from it. It is instead a way to help our teachers, empowering our teachers to achieve their primary goal of successfully engaging our students. We have therefore to equip our teachers with the tools that they need so they can be the best teachers they possibly can be. So we want all of you to be master teachers. It's not about having bright students on one path and others on the other path. This is about maximizing the potential of each of our beloved students, for we need to love every one of them as if they are our own. Amen? Amen. To ensure that this is what actually happens when the approach is instituted, we have made some rules to which all must comply. In particularly, we require that students should be fully integrated into the life of the school, including being identified with the school through uniform and integrated timetables for instruction and assessment, as well as evaluation. And I want to say to Professor Ying, and he can't deny it, because he confessed to me, because I said to him, I'm going to be working Minister Tways, I need your help here as well, because if you're going to have alternate pathways and tweaking, and yes, we have some alternative exam, but I'm saying even our CSET, to the extent we have levels 1 and 2 for CAPE, yes? And GCE A levels have now 2 components, yes? Yes, I know. I want to talk to them about splitting this exam into 2 levels, level 1 and 2. Yes, CSET, general proficiency, yes. Because if it is, and I'll explain at another time, because the same students we're trying to validate. We talk about equifinality. I did some article a couple years ago, dumpling, dumpling, dumpling. Equifinality, which is what the whole concept is how you get to a destination. So steps, scaffolding, same principle. So you can do component 1, level 1. You can even, and then you do level 2. You could do level 1 at 4th form and do level 2 at 6th form, depending on where you are in the system. I'm talking about, so if you're talking about the multiple opportunities, we also have to ensure that the testing and evaluation system that we have are also flexible so they can work with the students to make sure that we are capturing their pace. Or because sometimes you have intervening circumstances that didn't allow them to actualize at the same time. So these are some of the creative things. If we're going to be creative, it can't be just, we have to go the full route. We have to go all the way. So what we're addressing here is the discredited notion that one size fits all. Because it doesn't mean, therefore, even in my theory, that has happened, and by the way, what I just spoke about is already happening in England with GSCE, because you can either do the whole thing one time, or you can do it in components. So it doesn't mean, therefore, I'm saying that all students need to do level 1 and 2. Some could do everything one time, and others will be given the opportunity. It's all about giving students their opportunities to self-actualize. And if we are fair to ourselves, and I've been studying our outcome long enough, that only 30%, Mr. Former Minister, 30% of our student population, really the entire cohort, achieves satisfactory examination results. So frankly, we have to make radical changes at all levels. Every student, therefore, must be given every chance to succeed at that, which means identifying that thing or those things at which the student is best suited and most talented. The alternative pathway is not designed to graduate semi-literate young people out of the secondary system to make our numbers look good, far from it, but rather is designed to ensure that every single one of our children gets every possible opportunity to graduate, and that when they do, they are equipped with skills which will enable them to enter the workforce and make a meaningful contribution to national development. In fact, automatically we'll have less problem in unattached youth, because I said before that we will keep them under our care until age 18. We believe the alternative pathway represents a best fit for Jamaica and for our secondary education system. And I'm convinced that if we all work together, students, parents, teachers, school, the opposition, the ministry, or the diaspora, all our stakeholders, then the alternative pathways to secondary education program will prove to be a major success. Failure, brothers and sisters, cannot be an option. As Minister of Education, Youth, and Information, I hereby approve, therefore, the alternative pathway to secondary education and encourage us all, particularly our school leaders and teachers, to embrace this new paradigm. Thank you so much.